what would be the difference? Yeah? If we took the same photo 20 years ago, probably with the best digital camera, the resolution would not be the same. The amount of information or data that you could be able to obtain would not be the what? Will not be the same. And that's why thank you very much, our presenters, for shedding the light on the opportunity that's existing with the new kind of buzz that we are seeing already going to orbit, and how much data and information that we are receiving or that we are going to receive with all these space assets. But the biggest question is, as we kind of delve into this conversation, if we don't have algorithms powered by AI or machine learning that will help us to analyze this data, definitely we cannot take advantage of this revolution. And that's why it's very important, as we go into this discussion, to explore what are the opportunity areas for machine learning and AI to help us, better get value out of all these, be it Landsat imagery, or be it all these different assets that we're getting, so that then we can be able to, as Dr. said, use them to drive decision making. Allow me to come closer to you, just as we kick off. Check, yes. Yeah, so again, thank you very much. I appreciate your time for joining us. I want to start off with you, Monica. I think you've had the presentation that have gone before. There's exciting opportunity with what's coming up with, this new trend that's going on AI. And of course, I'm sure probably through your work, you've also leveraged on machine learning to be able to analyze data or to be able to get, efficiency and accuracy in terms of data analytics. My question to you would be, there is a whole conversation, and somebody said, and allow me to read, somebody said that AI is not about replacing humans. It's about augmenting human intelligence and maybe making us look a bit smarter than we actually are. So my question to you is, in your work, where do you see the opportunity of leveraging AI and machine learning? And do you feel like, as you pioneer to work and foster this particular new front, are there any risks like job loss, as we've seen the conversations that have gone ahead?
Good afternoon. To respond to his question, I'm going to just explain in a minute about Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team. And we are a global organization, and our core mission is to ensure that missing geospatial data or missing geographical maps are not hindering humanitarian interventions or development interventions. And what that means is we deal with large data sets with the goal of being able to provide data from as very foundational level data that has to do with buildings and roads, and working with different organizations to actually build additional data sets or data layers and move from the data conversation into more of a decision-making kind of space. So what that means is we are using open source tools. We are doing a lot of data collection through community mappers, what we call communities. And we are also consuming data primarily through imports from, let's say, government entities, national statistical offices, and all that is being integrated into an open source platform. So over the last 10 years, that process has been quite manual for us. It's often meant sending people out to the fields, typical door-to-door, adding one building at a time, adding one data point at a time. But we've evolved our technology, and based on the proliferation of what we call just new data use cases in the sector. So we are seeing the need to, one, produce high volumes of data for different issues, whether it's flood response, whether it's to deal with health pandemics, and et cetera. So from a humanitarian OpenStreetMap perspective, AI can actually accelerate the process of mapping. And this is because machine learning algorithms can support the process and can fast track the process of actually being able to detect certain critical features, what we call foundational data. So we need to move from buildings to be able to get to a place where we're making decisions around a certain building. From our perspective, it helps to actually fast track that initial process, because in some instances, it's probably 9 or 10 steps to the decision process. And what I mean by that is community mappers are actually quickly able to extract certain data features from satellite data, whether that's buildings, whether that's road, whether that's land cover features, and that means they can quickly move on to other things that have to do with validating that data. So these are just some of the ways in which we are being able to use AI and machine learning. One, to fast-track mapping processes. That way we can focus a lot more on the more critical other aspects of validating that data, of ground-truthing that data, of bringing people to a table to actually make decisions. Is it hindering employment, or is it kind of restricting opportunities? I think that is a no, from at least from where we sit. And again, it's connected to the pathways from data to decision making. The first step is easy. We've seen the technology that exists. It's advancing. We're able to quickly detect buildings. But the validation process, the ground truthing process, the adding of additional features, additional amenities, what time does a building open, how many people were in that building have been affected, that often needs a human mind. And that's because there's decision making to be made. There is certain levels of analytics, kind of what we call local knowledge that is needed. And local knowledge, unfortunately, can only be provided by people who are living in the affected area. So that means the best local knowledge providers in this area would be the people that actually live here. And that's an opportunity for kind of employment and working with young people.
Thank you very much. I think I agree with you 100% that definitely for us to be able to achieve impact, we must be able to incorporate localization. And that's why it's very critical that as we leverage on all these new technologies and pioneering frontiers, we are able also to incorporate that local expertise and local knowledge. I want to double down back to Alex. And Alex, you mentioned you've heard about one of the biggest challenges that actually Monica's mentioned about them being able to utilize and have a lot of data. And I think in your presentation also you painted a picture of how you're leveraging on cloud-based solutions to be able to pioneer and help access this particular, be it the satellite imageries or all of these particular assets. My question to you is, where do you see, in terms of helping African countries be able to access, as you know, some of these operations can be very costly. So how are you, as a private sector player, supporting, through cloud-based solutions, be it the different platforms like AWS and so on and so forth, enabling African countries be able to get at cost-effective some of these particular assets that could help them, in the decision-making process?
Great question. I mean, first and foremost, we invest hundreds of millions of dollars into the technology we produce, and we need to get a return on that investment. So we're not an NGO. But that being said, I think the investment we've put into our cloud-based platform that I was describing at the end of my presentation is one of those means. I talked about in the old days buying an image and owning that image. I think now we're giving customers the ability to rent an image. And we do that by providing a streaming service where you stream an image, you run your AI, ML, you produce your map, you write your report and include the image or whatever you need to do with that image. And then you simply move on to a new area or a new area of interest, and you don't actually physically download that image. You're just renting it. You're using what you need, when you need it, and how you need it. And you're only paying for using it when you're producing your report. Of course, you have the ability to download an image, and there are some users. I'm thinking of some of the surveyors that I've met who really want to have their database and their image sitting on their shelf, but it's really just getting old, and it's not doing anything on the price. So, creating cost-effective subscription models where you're able to consume data how you want it and when you want it is one of the ways that we're actually doing that. To give you an example, we have a number of disaster management contracts where we don't actually have any money exchanging hands. We simply have a contract that is ready in case a disaster happens. I'm sure some of you remember the tragedy that was MH375. There was the Malaysian Airlines that crashed in the Gulf of close to Thailand. And when that happened, we activated all our assets, imaged all of those areas, and made that data available through a service we called First Look. We did this with our open data program for the floods in Kenya, the floods in Namibia, and also the floods in Libya. So we have an open access program for disasters, which is another way that we support African countries, particularly for disasters, and have models whereby we incorporate AI, ML, and even crowdsourcing to very quickly go through those different applications and procedures. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. I think you mentioned renting or subscription models, and I think definitely for African governments, of course, that don't probably have the upfront investment in some of these particular opportunities, I think you're rightfully spot on in providing those on-demand resources so that then they can still be able to utilize and access some of these particular assets to be able to support in their decision making. Thank you very much, Alex, for that point. And I think just to add on to that is there's great opportunity, and I think the integration of different suites of either AI, ML tools that also come onboarded on some of these particular services that you provide, enable them now to also make that process of access very, very fast, but also in terms of scale to be able to enable them to make those particular decisions. So thank you very much for that, Alex. I want you to pass it on. You said you're not an NGO, you're a private sector, which is rightfully respected. I want you to kindly pass it on to Daktari. And Dr. Girmo, I think you gave us a very clear picture of the work that you're doing to really handhold some of this, be it county level leadership or county level interventions, and the work that you're pioneering in Muranga on all these other localities. What have you seen as the biggest hurdles that some of these levels of government, be it the county governments or the national governments, what are some of those hurdles in helping them to adopt and implement some of these AI, ML, solutions?
Great question. I think every pipeline has its own challenge. And as I said, we tended to collaborate with decision makers because at the end of the day, they are the ones who design the interventions. They have that decision power, and also those directors at NGOs and all that. The challenge is often the same as AI researcher, which is a misunderstanding between what we say and what they understand, and that's why I keep mentioning the necessity of collaborating with those policymakers, domain experts, from the first day until the very end. Where that misunderstanding came in? One, because we tended to complicate the conversation about AI with certain buzzwords. AI is really a technology. We have seen printing machine, we have seen telescope, we have seen calculator, we have seen radio, and AI is probably one of those technologies which came and transformed different sectors. And the level of complexity could be fine-tuned according to the need and the problem. And usually when we came in AI, many people have a misunderstanding or misconception of it could do everything. Not really. AI cannot do everything. We need to be careful which problems, as my fellow panelists say, could address and which problems AI cannot address. At the same time, there is the other extreme. AI will take over us, but that's not really the reality as far as I'm concerned. It's a technology. It has both edges, positive and negative, and we need to utilize the positive aspect of this technology, trying to understand all those problems I mentioned, while we try to minimize the adverse impact it may have. So overall, the challenge often came from misunderstanding about the technology, data, and how we could develop it. Having that conversation similar to what we did with the Muranga County, with Dr. Kiroeki, is from the first step, we try to learn what does that problem mean. Remember, real life problem is much complex than what we think. When you think about cropland, what does it mean really? How do you delineate it? What kind of crop? If you go from Kenya to Rwanda, the landscape is different. The way farmers do farming is very different, right? This complexity needs a conversation with all those stakeholders involved. With that conversation, clarity emerges. When clarity emerges, you could use those technologies and domain knowledges to develop a solution that everybody is aware and feel a part of the solution. Yeah.
Just before I let you go on that point, you've mentioned very critically on the role of working together with them. Just want to double down on how do you ensure that, transfer of knowledge, just building the local capacity of the people that you're working with at that local level. You mentioned about the first step, which is critical in creating that common understanding. But how do you make sure that there's continuity in building the local capacity as you work on these projects?
Very good question. So I'm a scientist, so I will just give you a practical answer. The way we work with Muranga County, with the team at Kenya Space Agency, we start from the first conversation. What kind of data do you have? The data from MaxR that has been collected a year or so ago. What can we do with it? What is the challenge? What's the next step? And as AI company, we could technically do all the technical stuff necessary, but we said no. First, Charles and the team, go into the data, give us some annotation. That way, we start both interact with the data and with each other. We have at least bi-weekly meeting where everyone joins and they share their finding, we share their finding, they criticize our approach, and we also learn from that iterative process. And this is going all the way. And then this is what exactly I mean by involve them and make it practical. As a AI researcher, most of our challenges, we think just because we have the data, we understand the problem, and we develop the solution, bring back to the decision maker, which they never participate in the process. But that way, with this practical example, I hope everyone had a sense how Microsoft AI for Good, Kenya Space Agency, and others are working together bi-weekly in giving feedback for that potentially impactful solution at the end of the road.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that's very well taken note of collaborations in that entire iterative process. I want to come to you, Titus. Yeah, you've been listening into all the amazing conversations that have been going through all the way. And I just want you to now think through with us in terms of all of these solutions that Magza is bringing on, right? All of these interventions that are really localized on the ground. And of course, like Monica also said, how definitely are we going to make sure that these particular solutions or these particular AI ML-based solutions have that longevity in terms of sustainability. So my question to you is, in terms of just your solutions, and feel free to use an example from an experience that you've had with your solutions, including anything between the ongoing training of different AI models or data maintenance or analytics, how can we ensure that long-term sustainability of these particular AI ML-based solutions?
Hello.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ronald, for that question. When it comes to the question of sustainability, I think first we need to look at some of the challenges we have in our part of the world, capital challenges, for example, and infrastructure challenges. So it is always a question of how do we overcome these challenges to ensure that the AI and ML models or machine learning applications that we come with continue to work even for the longest time that we have, given the challenges that we have of capital. And one way I would say that we can overcome the question of sustainability is one, collaboration. We need to work with companies that are already advanced in the area of AI and ML, because they will hold our hands and they will teach us what we need to know and build our technical capacity as we go along. So that reduces our barrier of entry when it comes to generating and growing the capacity within our countries as developing countries. The other way of overcoming this question of sustainability is encouraging our governments to adopt a long-term approach. Because if we say today that we are going to wait until the time we set up the whole infrastructure required for cloud computing, we are going to take a lot of time. But if we approach it in a way of improved increments over time, then we are able to start at almost the same level as developed countries without the constraints that come with a lot of infrastructure and a lot of capital investments. And the other way of sustainability is, for me, I am a strong advocate for opening up EO observation data, EO data to non-domain experts. Because if you look at the conversations we've been having even during this conference, you see the applications are around the same typical areas: forest fire monitoring, land change management, urban management, disaster management. But what if we opened the application of EO observation data to wider applications than to what is currently typical? What that is going to do is that the private sector is going to jump on this data, look at the insights, and driven by their motivation to generate some revenue, they are going to create products that are not typical to what we are used to. You would be surprised that today it is possible to use satellite imagery to create gaming platforms and to create entertainment platforms. And what that does is that it expands the wider application of EO data. And when that application is wide, the demand for EO data increases. And when the demand for EO data increases, then it gives a chance for other observation companies to generate revenue, because the demand is high and they have to output as much data as possible. So I'm looking at those three areas as a way of overcoming the issue and the challenges of capital and infrastructure investment, which is always heavy and curtailing our sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Collaborations, I think that's one thing that has come out very clearly in helping us to be able to, utilize the AI ML-based solutions. You've mentioned about the aspects of capacity building for us to be able to achieve sustainability. And one critical piece that you've also mentioned that I want to now come back to Radhi on is the role of government intervention, be it to provide open data policies for us to be able to, facilitate that data sharing and collaboration platform. So I want to come back to you, Radhi, and you've listened in to all these solutions are there. There's a goodwill from the private sector to be able to drive these solutions. There is already existing interventions to learn from, and localization is already happening, even at the different county levels, like Dr. said. I want to now come back to you as we kind of wrap it up, and I think you're wrapping it up for us at a very critical point, where the question is, AI already has its fair share of myths and facts, and there are already conversations around how ethically are we leveraging on this new frontier. And I think only the EU Parliament, which recently has AI regulations coming online. So my question to you is, how can we integrate, the existing decision-making processes with policies in developing countries to be able to help us, maximize the impact that we can be able to get from these AI ML solutions? And feel free to share with us your experience, of course, from your previous workstation.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. And namaste, Jambo, everyone. So I think I will take an example of how the collaboration of AI or integration of AI systems has happened in India with the government ecosystems, where they are taking certain decisions at the end level, and how the AI, as my fellow panelists were speaking about, the way it has enhanced the uses of Earth observation data to non-domain people also, like to the general public who do not understand the technicality of the images and decode the images, but they look for the end insights out of it. So if we talk about India as such, integration of AI and ML technologies has helped Indian governments, especially county governments, etc., to build platforms where they get the images from the multiple sources like Maxars and European Union of the world. But then what AI helps them is to translate that data or translate that image into one single statement of what action has to be taken, which can impact the life of the last mile person sitting on ground, say as a farmer. For example, a farmer, today if we talk about Africa or India, there are a lot of smallholder farmers. Now, suppose a bank has to take a decision on lending, whether to, how they assess a farmer for their lending decisions. What they have the transaction data of a farmer, saying that the farmer has done some transactions formally, but then using EO data especially and leveraging AI technologies, now you can know, okay, this is the land parcel of the farmer where he is doing some certain farming practices, what kind of crop he was cultivating on the land, whether there was irrigation facilities or not. all of that data is available to you as a banker, which has nothing to do with these EO technologies. So you see the power of AI there. So now they just on a single click on a platform, they know that, okay, this is the farmer, this much amount of revenue he generates from that farmland. This fulfills what? This fulfills the data gap that the banker would have. And then the last mile farmer, the smallholder farmer will have access to finance thanks to the EO technology over here, which the banker does not understand, which the farmer does not understand, but impacted life of both. And very similarly, the use cases can be in the insurance industry, use cases can be for policy making with the government officials who just want to understand the landscape of their counties, their areas where the last mile work has to be done. Similarly, when my fellow panelists were presenting the work about floods and the disasters, so the rescue operations in these cases can also be generated, and the efficiency and the time taken by AI when it is integrated to the technology, the time taken to generate insights and take actions, call to actions, can be very rapid when in such kind of disasters. For example, if there is a wildlife fire or there is a flood, how do you decide which are the areas which are mostly affected? How do you decide where to go first, right? So that's where your EO data would be helpful. But then to decode the data, you would need experts. Now, thanks to again AI and ML technologies, a layman, a common man who does not understand how to decode the EO data, but understand how to operate the platform, can understand, okay, these are the hotspot where the flood has impacted a lot. So these are my priority areas where I have to start the rescue operations first, and likewise they can prioritize. So these are some of the examples, but opportunities are huge and tremendous, and we can always, India has done a great job in terms of integrating these services, and I see opportunity here also in Africa, especially in Kenya, being very, very advanced in the space technology domain. So I see a lot of opportunities integrating and learning from India and then replicating the technologies here. Thank you so much. Hope that answers your question also.
Yes, that does answer my question, but I beg just give me 1 second. I want you to just give us on that example are there any frameworks or regulations that's guiding all of this integration and use of AI? 30 seconds.
No, so if you look at EO data, AI technologies do not have regulations as such because it is in an nascent stage, though there are regulations in the other domains, but this particular sector has recently opened up, so there are no regulations, and people are thinking about impacting for good as of today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think as we kind of bring this to a close, I want to thank my panelists again. You have done a great job. Let's give them a round of applause. Yes, so as we finish also, I just want to mention that, of course, all of this, the most important piece is how do we connect it back to the end users? Because there's amazing technologies out here, there's amazing interventions that are coming through, but how do we make sure that all of this drive prosperity to the end user? And just to share a quick example is, for us at Tomorrow Now, we are a climate tech nonprofit, and we care about leveraging next generation weather intelligence to be able to support smallholder farm applications. And one of the things we are doing now is we have set up a global access platform for weather and climate data that's analysis ready. And what we are doing is we are leveraging private sector innovations that are pioneering and frontiering to be able to bring all this data into a test bed of the global access platform. And different research organizations like Calro already are pulling this data and adding agronomic practice onto the data. So that what a farmer gets at the end of the day, remember the government recently geotagged farmers. So we know where the farmer is, we know what value chain they are in, and we are able to send them a customized message that tells them this is what you need to do depending on your planting date. So what we are saying at the end of the day is these pioneering and frontiering technologies are available through the space assets that are giving us this data, but they will only bring impact if they are tied down to the user. Thank you very much and have a good afternoon.
Can we give them another round of applause for the fantastic session that we have all enjoyed? Please don't leave. Please don't leave. Please don't leave. You know, we would love to have a photo with you. Dr. Tedese, we'd love to have you come back for a photo with all the panelists. Alex, please don't run away. Titus, thank you.